Just a few minutes, guys. Just gonna run to the restroom real quick.
Hey, good morning, guys. Filling in for Steve while he's celebrating his birthday. Hope everyone had a good week. Crazy markets as always.
All right, what's up, bro?
What's up, dude? How you doing?
Good.
Another week of crazy markets, bro.
It's just crazy, bro. Nonstop. It's really nonstop.
I cannot believe this Tesla yesterday.
Yeah,
That was one of the craziest moves.
So, dude, I actually I rewatched Memento last night. I watched it for the first time when I was like a little bit younger, and I was like, dude, this movie's too fucking confusing. And I was like, maybe now that I'm like a little bit older, I can like understand it. And dude, what a sick ass movie.
I've actually never seen it. I've heard it's really good.
Bro,
Never watched it.
Watch it tonight.
Oh, it's on the list. Have you seen The Prestige?
Yep, I actually watched that a couple years ago. That was fucking crazy too.
Another one of my favorites. Look at this MSS, huge money flow, micro flow in SSR.
All right, there's the play.
Awesome.
There is the play of the day. Float is nothing too. 400,000 shares.
Yep. No, thank you. No, thank you.
That's crazy. All right, guys, we'll get started here in a few minutes. Big move. MSS literally has no float at all. Totally ignore it. Look at AIMX losing money flow when that happens.
Of course.
So we'll see what happens. We'll get started here in a couple minutes.
Dude, this ADVB is pretty nuts too. From what, 5 to 24?
Yeah, I saw that, bro. That's crazy.
Pretty dense.
Morning, good morning. We'll get started here in a few minutes, guys. It's funny because his MSS has no flow, but you can see because of the SSR, everyone's just stacking on the ask.
Yeah, I think Farmer was pumping it too.
Classic. All right, let's get started here, guys. So good morning, everyone. Welcome back to live trading. If this is your first time on live trading, welcome. We are using the webinars channel and MIC Slack chat to communicate. I think I'm kind of losing my voice here. I don't know if I've just been talking too much on live trading or what's been going on. My throat kind of hurts today. So I'm going to try to not talk as much. I'm going to try to talk during like the key parts. Yeah, I mean, you guys see it every day. I'm coming on here live trading, yelling sometimes, screaming sometimes, ranting sometimes, and sometimes it catches up to me. So I definitely feel like I'm losing my voice and my throat is not happy today. So I'm gonna just try my best to, talk when it's valuable. So coming into today, same plan as always. Identify the main runners, identify the side plays, and then attack. Doing pretty solid for the month so far. 44,000 with one red day. So nothing too crazy there, but we've seen a lot of excuse me. We've seen a lot of action during this market cycle. And the reality is that our job during these cycles is just to stick to the process and walk away. I just want to make sure that every single day that I am showing up, I'm trying to do my best to essentially do the right thing, right? The biggest problem that I see with traders is a lot of traders, I mean, I say it all the time and you guys wouldn't believe it, and I say it because it's true, is people ignore us. We tell them to ignore a stock, they trade it. We tell them to trade a stock, they ignore it. We tell them to go short, they go long. We tell them to go long, they go short. And I don't know if it's a communication issue. I don't think it's a language issue, but it's just very frustrating to see so many people just ignoring us and then wondering why they're not making money. So I think we've proven over and over again that if you just stick to what we say, it makes money. There's also clear proof that we demonstrate what we teach as well. We don't just say, oh, do this, don't do this, and then we do that. We say, do this, here's me doing it, here's me making money, all right, So that's just the main thing to understand is, I went over this yesterday, and I'm going to go over it again because I think it's super powerful. Is one of our members asked us, what are the 5 things that they can do to become a successful trader? And I said, number 1 is only use the watch list. Number 2 is do not trade pre-market. Number 3 is stop trading at 10:30 a.m. Number 4 is set a max loss at the broker level. And number 5 is add to your winners, not your losers. It sounds simple in theory, but the execution is the most important part, man. So I want you guys to understand that fact of, most of these stocks are just really, really, really heavily manipulated names. And as long as you know where the manipulation is coming from, as long as you know how to combat that action, you're going to be in good shape. It is large cap earnings week. You saw Tesla crater. You saw Google crater. Next week is the Super Bowl of earnings, which is like Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon. So those companies will have a very big tell on what the market is going to do. Basically, from what it seems, it's like these large cap companies are still raising their CapEx, their capital expenditures, pretty much meaning that they're spending a ton of money on AI. And a lot of investors are like, where's the return on these investments? Google is, I think, dropping $200 or $300 billion a year. $200 to $300 billion a year for AI. And everyone's like, where are the returns type thing. So that's the thing that you have to understand about the market here, guys, is, these companies are doing well on their numbers. These companies are making money. The problem is not that they're making money, it's that they're spending a lot of money too without any returns. So my assumption is that regardless of what the numbers come out on these big tech earnings next week, all eyes are on the CapEx number, capital expenditures. If they are raising CapEx even more, price is going to go down. They're going to drop CapEx, price is going to go up. And you have to remember that this is the new technology of who knows how long. So these companies have to invest into the future or they're going to be left behind. So in the short term, they're definitely being punished, but in the long term, I think it is going to actually pay off for them. So that's just kind of my thoughts on the overall market. And now let's talk about trading. So trading has been pretty well. Trading really rather cleanly. I think what I've been doing really, really well in this market is literally just sticking to the process and the plans that we sorry, my throat is kind of shot. Let me drink some tea, one sec. All right, so I think something that's really, really important is recognizing that every single day I'm showing up and doing the same freaking thing. Every day, I'm showing up, trying to stick to the process. Because I know that it will reward me. There are certain days where I want to be aggressive. There are certain days where I want to be, taking it a little bit slower. Some days are more aggressive, some days are a little bit slower, which is fine. But our job as that trader is to identify what those days are and then hit it hard. So every day that you show up to the market, you should be asking yourself, is today a day to size up or is today a day to size down? And if you're unable to answer that question, chances are you're not ready to size up anyway. So showing up to the market this morning, I'm just going to take it a little bit slow. I'm going to see what's moving. I'm going to see what's happening, and then we'll take it from there. So the way that we build the watch list is we always go to the previous day's watch list, so we build from there. So let's start. ADVV. ADVV, this stock has just been kind of coming back and coming back and coming back. Every time it kind of tries to go down, it comes back. This is now turning into a major, major avoid headache. So I'm going to just avoid this completely. ADVV, price action is too manipulated. Excuse me. Price action is too manipulated. Ignoring the short on this. We'll focus on other setups. INLF. INLF never really bounced, so not really much of an opportunity there. LABT never really bounced, so not really much of an opportunity there. ZCMD. This was that Chinese play that literally had an offering and then ran up and then kind of just like cratered back down, which is crazy. So this is, again, very heavily manipulated. So this is going to be an ignore. You can see that this VIVK is getting money flow as well. So watch out for this VIVK. Certainly seems like it's doing some trappy action, So that's something to kind of keep in mind. But give me a second here as I kind of get my shit together. JEM. JEM still kind of holding pretty strong too. It's turning into like a little bit of a multi-day runner, multi-day mover. So probably going to ignore this gem. Although it's kind of moving today, although it's kind of up, it still seems rather dangerous in my opinion. So because it's so dangerous, I want to be, a lot more careful on it. So gem, no real trade. NIKI was the stock from yesterday. Didn't really do anything. So nothing there. So pretty much all the stocks that were moving yesterday are duds. They're not really doing anything. They're not really exciting. Yeah, give me a second here. Sorry, getting a message here. Let's move on to what's going today. So today we have VIVK, main hot stock runner of the morning. VIVK, main hot stock runner of the day. Ignoring short. We have AMIX, kind of pop and drop, lower float. I mean, maybe could you make an argument to short, test the VWAP with small size? Potentially. So AMIX looking for a pop toward VWAP to short this, small size only. Next is CJMB, multi-day runner. Not really looking like anything worth my time here. So probably going to ignore that. MSS was kind of like a pump and dump type move. It's not really much traction at this point now, which kind of sucks. But that MSS kind of looks like a dud as well. One sec. What else is out there? ADVB we already covered as an ignore. You know, VIVK's main runner. So I mean, obviously it was looking like a little bit of a slower day. Something else as well is like SpaceX potential long if it holds green. So you can see SpaceX kind of been beaten down a little bit. Now it's kind of forming a little bit of a shorter term bottom here. You kind of see this 114 area is holding ish. So if we hold and push up, you know, I think that might be a solid opportunity for a long. Oil is kind of coming down today, but in my opinion, oil is just going to chop around until we get a headline from President Trump. So until President Trump comes out with a headline kind of changing the market environment, kind of saying that Iran is his friend now and all this other stuff, you know, I think that these oil and gas names are still going to be trappy. So overall, in my opinion, it's kind of looking like a little bit of a slower day, a potential no trade day, which is totally fine. I often find that a lot of people on these slower days tend to force trades and tend to lose money. So I just want to make sure that, you know, when the market is slow, that I am adapting for that action. It goes back to the same thing I started live trading with. As I said, is today a size up, is today a day size up, or is today a day size down? And the answer is probably size down. So my throat is kind of hurting. You know, it's not really much action today. So gonna take it a little bit slow. And yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. So I'll pass the baton over here to James, see what he thinks, and then we'll get started trading here in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah. Look, I think that these last couple weeks, you know, in my opinion, the market's actually been pretty tricky. I think that, you know, every day, you know, we've had at least one sort of crazy runner or stock that kind of pops up, you know, whether it's like this MSS, you know, this one failed, you know, but reality is, you know, it had every red flag possible. There's really not much dilution, you know, low float. You know, it's been pretty tough. I mean, I'm sitting on the week about $7,000. It's not bad, you know, it's not bad at all, but it's definitely been slow. You know, my focus these last couple months has really been stock selection and just focusing on avoiding what's given me the most trouble. As you guys know, I like to talk about that a lot because I think it's truly one of the most important things that you can really work on as a trader. You know, you see this VIVK. Yeah, I mean, look, it's the runner of the day. It's technically a broken stock that's like bouncing huge, but you know, it's in the oil and gas sector. It's a micro float, and same thing. There's some dilution, but nothing crazy. So, you know, just recognizing for you what causes you the most trouble, and will give you a huge edge as the market kind of, you know, slows down or even picks up. It doesn't really matter, but it'll allow you to avoid all the traps and everything that's difficult. So, you know, again, you know, coming into a day like today where it's slow, I'm a little bit more cautious on hitting the stocks that are moving. You know, I find that money flow is going to look for a place to go pretty much always. So, you know, I'd rather be patient and wait and see. And, you know, Alex and Steven talk about this all the time, but, you know, this is the one job that you can, you know, show up and, you know, sit here for a couple hours and, you know, not actually make any money or not get paid. And that's okay. You know, you have to remind yourself, you know, how much money you've made on the week or how well you're doing. And sometimes that makes it a lot easier just to sit and wait for your, you know, your perfect pitch kind of idea. You know, Alex always taught me this trick that, you know, if you're up 7,000 on the week and that's, you know, over 4 days, you know, of trading, you break that down, you know, that's, you know, it's like $1,800 a day or whatever. That's pretty good. So even if you don't trade, you know, today, that's okay. You know, that's still great money. That's still leading up to 500 grand a year. So, you know, my focus today is just going to be the same thing as it's always been. It's just avoiding the stuff that causes me the most trouble. You know, I think often we get suckered into trading things just because we're here. You know, you see something like VIVK popping, and again, this is not to say that it's not going to tank or not going to. I don't know, you know, but recognizing the red flags leads to a lot less headaches in the future. You know, I miss a lot of trades. I miss probably most of the trades that happen in the day. because I'm kind of like Alex. I'm quick to write a stock off. I'm quick to say, you know what, I'm not going to deal with that. It's too much of a headache and it's too much risk. Which again leads to me missing things like MSS. But if that thing had squeezed to 8 or 9 or 10, it's a different story. So I think for me, that's going to be it. Going to stick to the watch list. I think the last thing I'll say is every single day now, I've seen members asking about oil. The thing with oil is, and I just have a lot of experience trading it well, and then trading it really poorly, is that we cannot confuse ourselves, just because we make money trading in the markets, but we focus on small caps. So, it's really difficult for us to, transition over to large caps, except when there's a big opportunity day, whether it's like a first red day or, some sort of sell the news setup, so, I see a lot of people taking stabs at this oil day to day, but my honest opinion is that with Trump in office, it's always a coin toss. News can come out at any point, and like Alex said, until we get some sort of news that's like Iran is now our best friend, I think it's just going to be a difficult short. So, just are always constant reminder to stay in your lane. Don't just trade just to trade. And I think that most people I talk to, they struggle becoming profitable. And when I sit with them on these mentorship calls and we go through the trader view and we remove all the trades that have given them the most trouble, which, go figure, it's usually like the nano floats or stocks that Alex has to avoid or something like that, they're net profitable, or at least break even. So, it's a big focus, guys. Don't just trade the trade. And, you're paying to be here to learn from someone who's made a ton of money in the markets. Actually utilize it. Don't just go off on your own. I did that for a long time, and I'll tell you, it didn't work. So, I think a lot of people, they'll say they get frustrated if Alex doesn't trade one day, but the reality is you've watched him make hundreds of thousands of dollars this year and millions of dollars over the last couple of years. That's it. There's a reason for it. So that's my rant. That's my spiel. But yeah, Sean, pretty much all pre-market this last week.
So a couple questions. Sorry, a couple questions here. WLDS. WLDS, I see this one. A little bit of a lower float. This WLDS is like a former runner. I've seen this thing run multiple times in the past. Especially like this is probably like a reverse split, but 10 to 100. So I'm kind of just waiting on this. If it bounces towards VWAP, I might monitor it on the side, but I'm not too in love with it yet. Next thing is EHGO. EHGO is the stock that I traded yesterday. It was actually a really good trade. We identified the death candle on the stock, shorted the bounce, and then walked away. Had I just kind of held a little bit longer, it would have been a lot better. But as you guys know, I'm taking my money and running away. Coming into today, you can see there's support around $2. So in a perfect world, this would bounce towards 3 to short, but it might just be dead in the water. Something you guys got to remember about these stocks is most of them are just based on hype. And I say that every single day because what happens is the day that the hype ends, which is usually the next day, there's no one home. If you look at an example like V, remember this VEE? Shit was at $65, $55. And now it's at 15. Why? Because no one cares anymore. There's new stocks moving. There's new stocks running. And the hype that was propelling this thing is now gone bye-bye and went to someone else, So that's what you have to understand about these stocks. These stocks are not investments. These stocks are not going to change your life. These stocks are nonsense.
This VIVK still the money float for now. Why does everyone call me right now? That's 4 phone calls. No, I think he's still here.
No, I'm still here.
those are the last thing I'll say, guys. As you guys know, when you're a new member and you're joining, I DM you a link to set up a mentorship call with myself or Harry. So please make sure to take advantage of that. It's a really good start to MIC and just kind of helps you guys get going. And one of the biggest things, guys, I talk about, especially in trading, and it's a lesson that I've been giving a lot lately, is just watching how much the money piles up, day to day. If you're here, even if it's slow, you're making $100 a day. I always use this analogy, but $100 a day is $2,000 a month. And the average mortgage in the United States is $2,000 a month, right? So you don't need to make a lot of money. We get often, I think, intoxicated by seeing these big profits on Twitter or wherever it is. But we're just here every day to pile up the money and protect ourselves against the pitfalls, the risky stocks and the things that give us the most trouble. So, like I said, we're just here to, trade what works, trade the watch list, nail and bail, take the money and leave. It doesn't take a lot of money to do well in this business. And, we're just going to take it day by day. And, some days are going to be a little bit slower. There's always going to be days where it's kind of like this, where, odds are I can already kind of sense it's, probably not going to be much going on, and that's okay. I just popped into my head because I just looked at my equity and, I'm going to wire out, 10 grand, and it doesn't really take much to get there. Just a couple small days, things add up. That 10 grand goes a long way. It's a lot of money compared to what a lot of people in the world make. So always grateful. As I'm talking, SpaceX is kind of a dump. I don't know if there's spy news or something.
No, just probably imbalances.
Oh, yeah, it's 28, I didn't realize.
Yeah, great job, James. And, if you want to send that 10K to me, I would really appreciate it.
I have a fiance who I think needs it, unfortunately, for wedding BS. So.
Also, Phil is not here because Phil's getting married today. So shout out Phil. It's Steven's official birthday today too. So Steven's birthday. Shout out Phil. And yeah, VIVK is the main hot stock runner of the day. It's pretty damn obvious at this point. You could tell. Can it just tank off the open? I mean, anything is possible. But, from what we're seeing every day, like James said, every day we're seeing at least one crazy play made. That's just the way it works. It's a blessing and it's a curse. It's a blessing because every day we have opportunity, and it's a curse because sometimes these stocks are messed up, So that's the biggest thing to understand here, guys, is we are very blessed to have an opportunity every single day. And usually what ends up happening is these manipulators, they want their opportunity too. They need to make their money too. So they're not going to stop until they get at least one stock to trap and to pump. And that's it. So with that being said, we got about 30 seconds here. As you guys know, we do live streams for MIC members every single day. This is where we cut it off on YouTube. Maybe sometime next week, I'll do a free live stream. But until then, just go to our website, myinvestingclub.com, or email us, and we'll help you guys set up on a discounted rate. So with that being said, we'll start